Turning and turning in a widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight. Somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man. A gaze blank and pitiless as the sun is moving its slow thighs, while all about it wheel shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle. And what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born? Hi everyone, that was a poem by William Butler Yeats, The Second Coming, a very dark poem. And I'm sitting here with my daughter, Connie Berensky.
Hello.
And we thought we'd talk about that poem in relation to the world today, what it's like living in the world today. So, Connie, are there any lines in that poem that stand out to you?
I think first time I heard it, it horrified me, which is what it's supposed to do. Like I find it to be very strong. But definitely the last line was the first one that freaked me out, that give me goosebumps. But whenever I read it again and could really read into it, I think the blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. I think we can see that in our society. People are suffering horribly, like pain, poverty, and then you've got people looking on, thinking that they deserve it almost. Yeah. There's like a lack of humanity.
We can see that in the different wars that are going on, so-called wars, and also how people are suffering greatly, in different levels, all different countries. Like in a certain way, we suffer a wee bit in the cost of living, because it's very hard now even to go to get our shopping or anything, pay for electricity. So the poor are getting poorer, but the rich seem to be getting richer. Like lots of people made money out of the pandemic, the so-called pandemic. So you're a young person growing up. What's it like for you in this world? Is the future bright?
Well, it's different for me. And I'm sorry this ruins your question, because I'm an autistic young person, so it's a bit different. It's a lot different. Personally, I don't even really think about the future anymore, because it's impossible to imagine anything, that isn't bleak. The way the world's going, it just feels like it's not going to be great. It's certainly not, the picture that I had imagined for myself, especially at this age. Like I'm coming 30, when you were younger, you'd think, oh, I'll have a family, I'll have a house, a husband, But for young people now, to have a house is almost insurmountable, especially to get over that first hurdle, and especially if you're coming from not a great income. But that way, it's hard. Practically, it's harder. Like in that poem, I find people seem to have less empathy and humanity. So it's harder to interact with people when you do go out.
Yeah.
I think I'm just waffling.
No, you're saying everything that we were told to look forward to. There's certain times of life, like this is your first Saturn return. So Saturn returns come like every 30 years. This is your first one, and this is a time of your life whenever you will make great changes if you need to. And you have made great changes in your life. You were in a relationship, you did have a job. All of these things didn't really suit you and weren't the best thing for you. You made those changes, and you're at a point now where you can begin to build your life again, but you're finding it hard to build your life because the choices are limited for you.
Yeah, limited for
everyone.
I would say, well, 99.9% of people.
Yeah.
Like the majority for sure. It's like an illusion.
Yes, and I would say that it is an illusion. All those things that we were told is like a script that we were told to follow, and we were put in a place. So a thing for you to do was to go to school, get an education, get a job, get married, buy a house, have kids, work until you die, and then it just goes on each generation.
The one thing, to work until you die, I remember being in work thinking, this can't be it, surely. Spending most of your time here and then going home, and there's not even anything to show for it. Like, especially in Northern Ireland, like wages,
I think it's the same everywhere,
yeah.
Really. But, so what we're here to do really is to challenge that narrative, because that really isn't true. And it's not a choice. It's a choice to live that way. So whenever I listen to different podcasts or YouTube, or even read books or pick things up from friends, there's a lot of talk about being in 5D or 3rd-D, so 5th dimension or 3rd dimension. And do you know anything about that? Have you heard that before?
From, like you said, watching YouTube videos mostly. But I think from what I get from it, it's my understanding, how I apply it to myself, is it's a choice. Like, and they tell you that in the videos I've seen, of course, they say it's a choice. Like, I haven't made that up. But, like, in everything you do, you have to do it with good intentions. Like, that's all it takes.
That's true.
In the moment, deciding to do something for the best, with love.
So people think that whenever you're talking about being in the 5th dimension, you're actually talking about being in some like rainbow place with flowers and fairies, but actually it's a frame of mind. And like you say, it's a choice, and to do things out of love. But it's also a way to look at the world. So whenever you look at that way of being grown up, get an education, get married, all that, work till you drop, that's kind of a 3rd-D kind of way of thinking. That's the old way of thinking. But now people are saying that they have woke, and it's like a new thing since the pandemic, so-called pandemic in 2020. People are woke. What people are waking up to is that that's all a lie. You don't have to live that way. You can do anything you want. You can live your life any way you want. You can be anything you want. You don't have to follow that narrative. There's no rules to say that by 30 you have to be married, have a house, be in debt up to your eyeballs, work until you die. Who's the one that said that's the way to live? No, we don't believe that. We choose in the 5th dimension. A 5th dimension way of thinking is that you live your true, authentic way of being. You don't have to do that.
And I know for me it took a long time and a lot of work to separate, that way of thinking from my reality. took a long time and a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, to separate your sense of self-worth from working, which is absolutely... Now, whenever I look back on the way I thought and the way I thought about myself, because I was unable to, like, you know, you say you work till you drop. What happened to me is that I did work until I dropped. I had what's called autistic burnout. That when I look back and see what I was putting myself through in order to follow that, like you said, that script that's been laid out, that is bizarre, and services like so little people, you know, and stops you from living your life. I feel bad for myself that I ever felt that way.
Joyce, because you got out of the matrix. But going back to the poem again, another line that really stands out to me is, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. And that sounds like, or it feels like to me, a detachment from God. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. So people are detached from whatever they consider to be God or the higher power.
It does feel like that, like there's a lack of holiness around, you know, like there's very little that is sacred. I always, like, for me, my belief in God, or my relationship with God, is that anything that is God is love. That's what I was always told, is God is love. And when there is no love, I think, well, you know, there's no connection to anything sacred or holy or loving here.
Holy, yeah. And life is not important here, is it? It's not important as things. So we are sounding very dark, but it's a poem and it's a reflection of what's going on. So yeah, and who is in charge of this? Who is, like, is it, like, this poem sort of talks about the rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. So that's given implications of the Antichrist. And yeah, it almost feels like that. It feels like we're in an apocalypse, that we're in a third world war. A war against innocence. Innocence, the ceremony of innocence is drowned. It bears like all conviction. So yeah, some people believe that we're coming out. We've been in these dark times. These years of Pisces are the times of the Kali Yuga, and we're actually coming out of that now. We've been down in the darkness, we're in the pits, but 2024 is the time that we come out of Kali Yuga, and very soon everything is going to change. It's going to change in 2024.
That would be good, only if it's for the better. It does seem like it's kind of rupturing at the minute, like everything is failing, all systems are failing, that, you know, something has to happen.
Something's happening.
And it's around the world, it's everywhere. It's not, like you said before, it's not just Northern Ireland.
And it seems too like there's like glitches in the matrix, because people are starting to see things like UFOs and different things. Now, I do believe that, of course, we have had extraterrestrial life on this planet, like who built the pyramids and whatever, and it's a whole other dialogue.
I've seen a post before about the pyramids, and you know, you mentioned Tesla a lot, and how he thought, you know, the universe, what is it, if you wanted to know the universe, think in terms of energy.
That's right.
He had a theory that the pyramids, because they're all over the world, they're not just in Egypt, you know, like the exact same, they were for harvesting the energy in the universe somehow. That, like, the people who built them, whoever did, I also think it was aliens, or with alien knowledge. They
that's
were
true.
trying to tap in. They believed in something more that
we
have forgot.
The biggest pyramid, it was only seen whenever flying over it, that is perfectly in line with the Orion's belt.
It's incredible. It's like, it's mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing.
That's like, my mind will never understand.
But what I'm talking about is that there's glitches in the matrix, so people are starting to see weird things. But what happens at the end of Kali Yuga is that the illusion is falling apart. So it takes a lot of people to keep the illusion going. So everybody has to believe in the narrative of that whole thing about life. People are starting to realise that everything is a lie. Money is a lie, work's a lie, time's a lie, history is a lie. So what happens when illusion begins to fall apart, then the glitches start, and that's why weird things are happening.
I suppose the purpose that, like, you think, who are the ones who are portraying this as, the way to live? The reason that they would be doing that is for that line that you just read in that poem, to separate the falcon from the falconer. Like, we've totally lost any concept of, like, Tesla and energy. That's frowned upon now, it's laughed at.
Vibration.
Yeah.
Frequency.
But I know that my mind has opened more, like, things that I would have laughed at before. I know now that they're, people aren't doing them for hundreds of thousands of years, or however long people have been around, for no reason. There's a reason to be doing it. Yes. That we are so separated from the falconer.
That's true. We're and you know what? Because everything is symbols and imagery, we're actually separated from ourselves in relation to this world.
We are the falconer.
We are, yeah. We are God. I do believe, of course, there is a God, there's a higher power. I don't see God as one thing, a man up above, but I see God everywhere. So this line, I'll shape with lion body and head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun, is moving its slow thighs towards Bethlehem, slouches towards Bethlehem. What foul beast, what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born.
It's eerie.
It's very dire.
What rough beast.
Rough beast.
I think visually, and what I imagine is, do you ever see Passion of the Christ?
Yes.
Remember the portrayal of the devil in it was horrifying. That's what I picture across a bleak land. And
that is the kind of thing that's out there, that kind of low energy. And again, we're whenever you're trying to live in a 5D consciousness way of living, you don't focus on that. You focus on the falconer. You focus on that higher power, and it's good to be aware of everything that's going on, but you're not part of it. You're
the
observer. That's a good way of looking at it. But and there's a lot of things, believe it or not, that we can do to help be a difference in this world. So one of them is to be authentic, as you said, be loving, be good.
It's like, especially during this time, it's increasingly more difficult to do that, it's a real decision you have to make. Yes.
So a good way of doing it, like this said, that it only takes the heart math people in America have done a lot of study and meditation and its effect on the areas around it, where people live. If people meditate in this area, crime rate has gone down, things like that. So they say that it only takes 1% of a population to bring about a change in the world.
And that, it just goes to show how powerful we must be, that we forgot, that we once knew, obviously.
Yeah. But we're waking up to it.
We're waking up. And I do believe, and I know I believe this because I've been taught by Kathleen McIntyre.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky to have you. But you have to look within. It does come from within.
It all comes from within. So everything we can say is an illusion. We create our own reality. But that again is a different thing altogether. We could go into that. But so we hold that vision of goodness, and we can meditate and focus on love and send love. Love really, it's such a blah word, isn't it, love? Like, it sounds so flimsy and just so flowery and hippie-ish kind of thing, but love...
It's not. It's the most powerful.
Powerful, innate...
Yeah.
Innate force. Love is a force, like water.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I was picturing, like water carving out canyons through mountains. Like,
that's right.
Like you said, it's power.
That's what we do. That's how we overcome. This poem, I think he wrote that after the First World War. It must have been so bleak for him.
Aye. Yeah.
But it's a poem that transcends time. As we know, time's a lie anyway. But it definitely feels like it can be applied to what's happening in the world. So one of the things, Connie, that you said to me that really struck me, and I've shared with friends, is that whenever I get anxious about what's happening in the world, about money or anything, you would say to me, don't feed the lizards. I just love that.
Well, I could go on talking about that.
Yeah, we could go on about that, but we won't do too much about that. We'll just stay focused. But it's true. Whenever you go into that, whenever I go into that place of doubt or fear, it feels almost like it's the opposite of love. So
it almost is the opposite of love, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Love is hope and faith and
trust.
Yeah, being able to have that whenever it is dark.
So whenever I drop into that place, like if everything is energy and frequency, like Tesla and all says, then I will attract more of that, and I will be dropping down from that 5D consciousness into the 3D consciousnness. So I will be in that lower realm, the sunken place, as Ralph Smart would say.
That's from that movie, yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing.
It was
but
horrifying.
There was the sunken place. But that's what it feels like, we're in a sunken place. But
the thing I do, if I'm feeling like, I'm stuck in negative thinking or something, is I look at a picture, or if I'm home, which I often am, I look at Susie Woo, our little dog.
Yeah.
Because when I look at her, I just feel the most intense love. And I always think of her as like, if we are all gods, like we're all made in God's image and we are all part of the one energy of creation. I always think she's the most beautiful one.
I think that's really perfect, because another way to get out of this sunken place is to be in nature.
Yeah.
Because nature is authentic and true and light and love and
pure,
just pure light.
Yeah.
So that rough beast that slouches toward Bethlehem will not be born whenever we're around. Or people like us, people listening to this podcast, my friends, you are part of it, part of the thing that will stop, that energy that will stop this beast that's trying to be born. We're going to stay in that place of love. So just like Connie says, I would say don't feed the lizards. Don't give power to that beast, that lizard that slouches towards Bethlehem. Just stay up in the consciousness. But sorry, Connie, go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say it doesn't deserve it. It doesn't deserve any of our emotions or powerful love or, fear even, I suppose.
So I think really that's where we'll end today. I hope we ended on a high. I think we did. Don't feed the lizards. Just keep your face, stay up in that higher place and observe what's going on in the world. But know that it's another story, another narrative, but it's not the way it's going to be for us, because in our life, in our world, everything is good. So thank you very much. Thanks, Connie, for joining me in conversation.
Thank you.
And I'll be back again with Anne for our usual podcast. But thanks for joining me in this little diversion through with William Butler Yeats and the Second Coming.